Today's episode is brought to you by Wedding Post House and Mediazilla. Hello and welcome to How to Film Weddings. My name is John Bunn, and I am joined today by Jaired Sullivan of Wayward North Films. And before we get into today's episode, I just got back from an incredible family vacation and wedding in Canada. Yes, I went to Canada. I filmed alongside my friends Love and Lore Films. They had me come out and just kind of second shoot with them for a wedding for actually Brooke, one of the two of the company's owners. So I shot with Kayla, the other owner, and we filmed Brooke's wedding. And so I was out in the mountains near Banff, Lake Louise, Moraine Lake, was with the family for a week out there, and 2 of the days we were shooting this elopement. So my cup is full. I've been in the middle of the most incredible landscape. I'm feeling so excited about the fall season. My kids are back in school. A lot of good things going on in my world. And I wanted to bring on my friend Jaired today from Wayward North Films to talk about what we're seeing in the industry. 2 weeks ago, I did an episode saying that 2025 is going to be hard. Nick did an episode last week talking about should you quit? And we're just seeing a lot change in the landscape of wedding filmmaking in the wedding industry in general. So we dig into what we can be doing during the seasons of stillness, during the seasons of it being down, it being lower. And so this conversation is one you're really going to want to tune into. And I think that it will help you with your mindset towards the way things are going to go moving forward in the wedding film industry. I think a lot of people will go out of business in the next couple of years, and I think the people that lean into education, lean into their brand, lean into changing and adapting are the ones that are going to be not only surviving, but thriving as the market bounces back. So we're going to get into that episode, but before we move into the episode, I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Wedding Post House. If you go to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing, you can see Wedding Post House, and I wanted to just talk real quick about what it is. I just uploaded a film to them, and what I do is I upload my films, and instead of them editing the entire thing for me, they take all of my footage and they organize it into bins. So bride footage is for the bride, groom footage for the groom, ceremony footage for the ceremony, fill in the blank, any types of the day, the reception details, the first looks, everything are separate and organized. And then they take out any of the bad footage. And so I have all these timelines when they send it back to me with all the bride footage in one timeline, all the groom footage in one timeline. And then also all my ceremonies and live events are synced. So I can go in and they're ready to go. It saves me days worth of time. And it's not outsourcing the entire project, but it's outsourcing the part that just takes so much effort for me and allows me to hop in and immediately know this is all my good footage. This is the synced ceremonies and toasts, and I don't have to go in and do all that stuff. So it's just ready for me to get right in and edit my film. And again, that's Wedding Post House. They have special promos and deals for our listeners at howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. And with that, we're going to get into this week's episode with Jaired from Wayward North Films. Well, welcome back to the podcast, the one and only Jaired with an I, Sullivan with an I. Jaired, you're here. How are you? Say hello. What have you been up to? Who are you? How are you doing?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks so much for having me back. I'm doing good. We just got back from a family trip at the beach, which was fun. It was relaxing, great way to decompress, just reconnect with everything and reflect on everything that this year has brought. But no, doing good. Yeah, this year's been interesting to say the least. I think we're all kind of feeling something at least, and yeah, excited to dive into that.
Yeah, and Jaired, if people hadn't met you before, he's been on our podcast before. He runs an educational brand on his own. He's a wedding filmmaker on the East Coast. We got a lot of details about him, but I want to dig in because you're putting out a lot of content, especially on YouTube. Your channel's growing. You've been really consistent. You were in our mastermind group last year. I've just watched you from afar, and I got a DM from someone the other day just saying like, hey, I really appreciate, I went live on Instagram and was just talking about like where the industry is at and how everyone is feeling it, and 2024 has been hard. 2025 is hard to book things, and got a DM like, you should, Jaired just made this video, or he's been making content about this, and I was like, I would love to just have a conversation with him about what he's seeing with the industry, because I think a lot of people put on this front that like things are good, and my viewpoint is that things have changed, and they've changed a lot, and they're not going back to where they were for a long time, if ever. I think the whole outlook should be different, and just wanted to dig in with you on kind of what you're seeing when it comes to, you said this year has been hard. What does that mean? What are you seeing when it comes to that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you look at it, when I think back to 2020, which I feel like is where this all kind of stemmed, right? This is where life just kind of happened really fast for a lot of us, and it's all just a blur. 2020 to 2024 has just been a whirlwind. And that can be jarring for a lot of, business owners, first-time business owners too, because you experience a global shutdown, then you experience a wedding boom, and then you experience kind of a wedding recession, so to speak, or a wedding gap that they're calling it, where it's like the least amount of weddings happening across the board. And a lot of us don't really know how to navigate that. I mean, myself, I've seen the ebbs and flows of the industry. You've been in it long enough. You've seen the ebbs and flows. But yeah, like you said, it's different. It's the atmosphere is different. And I think the approach cannot be the same to weathering the storm. It has to be different. And what that looks like is going to be different for everybody, because like you said too, I think there's some people that are still thriving in the industry. There's a lot of us, a majority of us, that are just kind of feeling the effects of, everything. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some things that I've been doing that I feel like have helped somewhat. But also I think the biggest, contributor to this and just getting to the other side is just going to be time. It's just going to take some time, but there are some things that we can be proactive about to help us in the interim. And so
it did hit a chord on a lot of different things that I'm thinking about as well. And I had an episode 2 weeks ago where I just kind of laid out what I'm seeing in the industry. If you haven't listened to that one, it's actually done really well on our channel. It's called, I think, Wedding Video Industry in 2025 is Hard, or something like that. And like you said, the people that have been in this business longer than 7 years have seen some of this. But I was having a conversation with another industry professional that you guys would all know. This morning I was talking with him, and just about the whole landscape of this industry. And you mentioned like there was a shutdown, and then there was a boom because there was so many more weddings. And then now, there's this gap. And not only that, I think that the buyer has changed a lot. I think that people are more cautious with their dollars. And then you add in, anytime there's an election year, there's just uncertainty whether or not whoever wins, it doesn't matter. Like next year will naturally be better just because there's not an election happening and there's not uncertainty. At least you'll know what you have, especially here in the States. And I know it affects a lot of people, and there's lots of elections going on this year across the world. But like just being aware that like things are different as well as things are harder. There was this whole golden era of weddings and bookings, and it just being a lot easier in 2017 through 2022, somewhere in there. And if you started your business during that time, that's what's normal to you. Like that's what it should feel like to book weddings. And that's how much effort you should put out to get the right bookings. And, you should have been able to raise your prices quite easily every year. And it's almost like there's been a course correction. And now the market is much harder, and it's much harder to get bookings, and it's much harder to get people to pay for bookings, which has made things incredibly difficult for a lot of us. And I think a lot of people are like, well, should I just get my ball and go home? Should I just quit? What should I do? For your standpoint, do you agree with what I'm saying? And then what are some of the things that you're doing during this time to kind of get through, or what type of mindset things are you changing? What type of adaptations are you doing to get to where you feel like you'll have success moving forward?
Yeah, I'm in the camp of wedding videographers that started their business in 2016, like 2017 era, because 2017 was like my best year. And I mean, I had filmed 46 weddings that year. I was like borderline volume brand. And then the next year was even more lucrative, and the next, and it wasn't until 2020 where things just kind of did take that shift. And then we were all busy in like 21 and 22, 23 slowed down, and now we're sitting here wondering what the heck's going on, what's the future of our business look like. And so, yeah, I mean, it's important to just also to try to find new ways of just revitalizing your brand and your business. And that was like goal number one for me. I really just took this time to take a back seat into the um, complete picture of my business and look at my website, my branding, like, are there any gaps? Like, what can I really do to fill those gaps during this slow season? And so the one thing that I did was, um, reached out to Austin with Creative Cabana and got a brand facelift, so to speak, like a refresh within my my business. And so I just finished that, and they did an amazing job with it and making my brand feel a lot more centered in my values and my style and my voice. And honestly, sometimes you'd be amazed at how a refresh can really help rejuvenate, that creative spirit and make you feel more excited about your business, like it's a fresh start. And I think, that's a great mindset to have during times of uncertainty and doubt, is like just to think of it as the beginning of something new. And so that's kind of the mindset that I've had going into it, and, getting a refresh for my brand. And yeah, since launching the new site, I've had 3 inquiries, which is huge because like ever since May, I had nothing but spam fill my inbox, which was just so discouraging. It's the worst. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that was like the first thing that I've done that I feel has really helped me, not just from a mentality perspective, but also from what I'm seeing, like a business perspective of getting more, inquiries, and things are starting to kind of pick somewhat back up. I wouldn't say it's fully there. It's still, a little uncertain, but.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I want people. We had a call, and you were part of it, for our alumni group the other day for our mastermind program. And we're just kind of got on the subject. One of the members was like, I don't have any bookings this year. I have none for next year. I've done a rebrand. I don't know what to do. I think I'm going to, I have to quit. And it just kind of opened up this can for me of like, there was 35 of us or so in the room, and everyone's like, yes, this has been difficult. And I'm realizing, as the grandfather in the room, basically, that I've been through this. I remember this happening in 2008, 9, and 10, whenever I started my business in the middle of 2007. And in 28 and 9 was whenever the real estate bubble really collapsed, and banks went out of business, and the market crashed, and everything had a course correction, and it made it really hard for people to get loans, for businesses to start. Like, that crashed the whole economy for a while. And it took years for it to get back and get better. And this happens. If you look at like the real estate market or the stock market, it'll go up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, up. And what happens when there's like a big bubble that bursts is the market changes. Like, the real estate market was never the same after all the banks went to zero in one day. But people were still needing to sell houses, and people still wanted to buy houses, but the market was different. It was harder to get a house. It was way harder to get approved for a loan. Banks had new regulations. The mindset towards housing was different. And, people that were selling houses, that had been selling houses for a few years, and it was really easy. Oh yeah, we'll get them a loan. It was just, money was easy. Those people had a rude awakening whenever they got hit, with the brick wall. And what I'm seeing is that this 2023-ish, end of 23, into 24, into 25 area is the course correction almost of this industry growing really fast. And then COVID and all that sped things up, like you said, by 10 years. And so what has happened is the mindset towards weddings has shifted. the invention of the content creator exists. There's more people trying to get less weddings. People are lowering prices. The market is like, things are different. And so as we sit here and process what's going on, does that mean, oh, we need to all quit and take our ball and go home? Or does that mean that we can do what some of the real estate agents did in 28 and 29 and 2010 and survived and figured out how to get better, figured out where the market was going, how to update their systems, like you said, like new brand, new processes, new, like different things like that right now we're in the middle of a storm and the market will come back. It might not be the same. It might always be different, and I know it's geeky to talk about that, but I think it's really important for us to see that like we might have to do things differently. Like you can't get the same type of real estate loan in 2010 as you could in 2008 or 2008. And so thinking about that with where things are at with you and your business, what you were able to do, what kinds of things are you thinking can be done now? Like what kinds of things are you working on? You said you did your brand refresh. Are there any other things that you're doing right now to kind of stand out from the crowd or to ensure that you're going to be doing this when the market starts to bounce back?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the thing. Markets expand, they contract, bubbles form, bubbles pop. It's nothing new, but it's different, and we have to adapt if we want to kind of see the other side of it. And yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, I think just revisiting your processes and your systems, looking at like holes that you have in your system so far of ways that you can, be a better servant to your couples, maybe automate your communications, your invoicing, your scheduling, task management. That's something that I've been looking at too, because, without some database in front of me or a CRM just saying, hey, like this email needs to go out, this is your task for the day, or, I'm blind. So I'm definitely a huge advocate for some type of system in your business. And I think it's good to look at your business instead of just looking at the artist's perspective. How can you update those systems to be more efficient, to, maybe elevate your experience with new potential couples, looking at your products and your deliverables and ways that you can elevate that as well. And I think the biggest thing too is just like embracing the opportunity that we have in front of us instead of trying to look at it from a negative perspective, because it's easy to do. It's so easy to look at this from a whole negative point of view. And just embracing the opportunity, because when times are slow, it's so important too to take that time for yourself, for your family, just reconnect inward, recalibrate outside of, weddings altogether. And the way I like to view like seasons like this, like the seasons of like stillness or seasons of doubt, so to speak, I like to just shift the wording of that and just look at it as a season of opportunity and don't treat it as a setback. And I think everyone who has been in this industry for 4 or 5 years or longer, can certainly attest that even when your business is busy, you definitely need those times to just decompress so that you can keep serving your couples with the same care, the same attention, the same passion that each one of them deserves. And, our business can only be as healthy as we are. And so I look at that as, we have to just embrace this opportunity to take a break from the hustle. I mean, we had a crazy few years prior to this season. And so now we can kind of just take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and just evaluate ways that we can make our own products better, make our own services better, and make our whole system a lot more efficient so that, we're not constantly trapped in that cycle of burnout and just feeling all the time.
I hope you're enjoying this episode, but before we move forward, I wanted to remind you that we're giving away a brand new DJI Mini 4 Pro, the Fly More combo. Yes, it's an amazing drone. We're giving it away. All you have to do is fill out our survey at howtofilmweddings.com/survey. We want to hear from you on the kinds of podcasts, the kind of content, the kinds of education that you want from us with How to Film Weddings. And so we are enticing you to check out howtofilmweddings.com/survey with a chance of a free drone. Several hundred of you have filled this survey out already, and by the end of the month, we're going to be giving away this drone. So you have a little bit of time left if you're listening to this episode when we release it to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/survey, fill out the quick survey, and you're entered to win. And now let's get back to the show. It's interesting because everybody has to eat, everybody has to make money. Right. You start getting low on cash and you're like, wait a sec, I would love to look inward, but I also need to eat. I need to take care of my family or myself. And one thing that I know that you wanted to hit on is just, and maybe this isn't exactly how you were thinking, but like the whole idea of adapting or pivoting or figuring out and I 100% agree with you that like we do need to embrace this opportunity and like breathe in and get centered and know what we want to do and who we want to serve. And like, it's not so busy. And that is a huge opportunity for us. Like things are going to be okay. But I do think there are a lot of people out there that are like, that's great, except for my life is now on fire. And I need something. I need to figure this out. I can't, just focus on me. I also have to like pay the bills, and I don't have savings, or I don't. And for me, it's like with this podcast, we started in 2018 and we've had so many episodes that talk about why you should be raising your prices and how to raise your prices and raise your prices. And we get a lot of flack from people that say like, you can't tell me to raise my prices because you don't know my market. And we've never said as a blanket statement, just raise your prices, but we've talked about when you should raise your prices and what are some key factors in knowing your specific numbers in your market and knowing who's in your network and all these different things and the quality of your work matter about your pricing. But we also have to look at the market itself. Like I think about gas prices, or I think about, it's like when there's less gas available, the price goes up. And when there is a surplus of gas, the price goes down. In the middle of the pandemic, when no one was driving or allowed to go to work, gas prices got really low because nobody was buying gas. You didn't need to drive as much. And then it goes up as, like supply and demand. And what I have been seeing with people is, well, I've raised my prices to this and I'm not going to go back down. I'm not going to lower my prices. I'm not going to take that wedding because they weren't willing to pay me, $7,000 and or whatever the number is. And I mentioned this briefly on the episode I did a couple weeks ago, but I just booked a wedding for November because my personal bank account or my checking for my business is as low as it's been in a few years. And it's like, I reached out to 10 or 12 of my wedding planner friends kind of with my tail between my legs and said, hey, the fall is pretty rough for me. If you have any couples that are super sweet, that really want video, but their budget isn't a John Bunn Films budget, will you please let me know and give me a range of what they could pay? And I had a few bites, and one couple booked me for $7,000 whenever my starting rate on my site was $12,500. And I needed it. I needed it to pay for my insurance. I needed it to pay for my bills. And it's like a piece of humble pie is what I said, instead of eating the whole thing. And that was my version of pivoting. And I am still reaching out to planners and just saying, hey, you got anything between the $5,000 and $10,000 budget range? I want to get a few of those bookings just to get money coming in to keep that flow going. And that's the first time in 10 years of my 17, 18 years of business where I've brought my prices back some. And I offered a little bit less, for, just solo shooting one day, not multiple days. But the point being is like, I'm pivoting. I'm thinking, yeah, I would rather get work, be out there instead of just being like, I'm going to die on this hill of I charge $12,500. Yeah, it's worth it. But the supply and the demand of what's like, they can find a video for a client of theirs that is almost as good or feels the same for $4,000 or $5,000 less. They're having to save their couple that money right now. They're respectful of what I charge and know that I charge more and are thanking me for giving them a better deal and hooking their couples up. But I had to pivot. When you think about pivoting, what are you thinking about with what kinds of things are you doing within your business, your brand to pivot?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the hard truth. And that's a great point too. It's like, a lot of people are probably thinking, yeah, I mean, embracing the opportunity is great, Jared, but it's been like 4 months of embracing that opportunity, and now we got to put food on the table. It's like, okay, what can we do? What are some practical wisdom that we can, some things that we can implement today and try to make some money? And so, yeah, I mean, pivoting for me is just, it's so multifaceted because of just my own experience of what I've done in the past. I mean, case in point, in 2020, my version of pivoting was, I had some friends, thankfully, in the real estate market. And so I just kind of transferred those skill sets over to, that industry, and offered like photo and video to help them sell houses. Cause, in 2020, the real estate market was really good. So that was an industry that helped me kind of put food on the table, get some money back into the business bank account. And then pivoting from real estate after a couple months, I mean, I thankfully lucked out and went a whole another direction back into the 9 to 5 world, and got a job as a video production manager. And, I was super thankful for that position as well, while things were just kind of on standstill. And after a year or so, when things started to pick back up, I left the 9 to 5, went back into the wedding business. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really not like a straight line, and it's going to be different for each individual. I think we have such a unique ability to cater our services to a lot of different people, a lot of different industries and markets, not just weddings. We don't have to be tied and bound to just weddings. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do. And I guess today, since I'm not doing the 9 to 5, I'm not really doing real estate. My situation is going to be different because I kind of started doing content creation like back in 2019. And so that's kind of propelled me into a different market to where that's kind of supplementing income for me. I don't recommend someone going out and just trying to start a content creation today, because it's going to take you a long time to get to the point of where you're actually making like sustainable money. So that's kind of where I'm at today, but also inside the wedding business, beyond just, revitalizing my brand and my website. I've also taken a look at my products and services, and I haven't lowered my pricing. I've just increased the value of the product. And so I've, offered, longer films within my packages, like documentary edits, family films, even like video albums, so to speak. So like I've just increased the value of my product versus trying to lower the price, because right now I think a lot of people that are struggling are in that mid-market. And I feel like that's still somewhat where I am. And so I'm like kind of on the cusp of leading into a more elevated pricing tier, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if I had dropped down, if I'd like lowered my packages, I would have just been just really unhappy with myself, my future self. And so, yeah, I just like looked at it differently and decided to increase the value of the product versus cutting pricing in half, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point for people listening, where it's like, I was in a higher tier, but not in an ultra luxury tier, which I think that market right now is pretty safe, because people that have a lot of money to spend have a lot of money and they're not hurting as much. To where if you're somebody that is servicing kind of the standard market, the middle of the market, in Tulsa, that would be like a $3,000 to $4,000 range for a couple is pretty, it's not the cheap side of things, but it's not the higher end side of things. You're going to, like, you might need to be saying, oh, I'm not getting bookings, I'm not going to lower my prices to $1,500. That's not sustainable. Like, that's not, but it might be, oh, I can add more time. I can add a longer edit. I can do, a ceremony edit or whatever, or raw footage, or like add value to pivot or whatever. And for me, it was like, I removed a second day of shooting that I usually do. Whenever I just booked this wedding for half as much, I removed a second shooter, but they're still getting a really high quality film. They're still getting like a product that I'm feeling really good about making $7,000 for shooting for 8 hours and making a 6-minute film for them. So don't just do what John's doing. Don't just do what Jaired's doing. But But the third thing there is, don't just die on the hill that you're standing on because of the thing you've romanticized in your brain, where it's like, no, I charge $6,000 or 5,000, whatever it is. That's what I charge, but no one's booking me and you have no bookings. That's not what you charge really anymore. I mean, it's what you're charging, but nobody's buying your product. And depending on the supply and the demand, depending on the market itself, it's like if you're over here selling a $12 bottle of water at the stadium, but no one's in the stadium anymore, it's like you might need to walk outside and go stand on the street corner and sell it for $2 because it's still the same bottle of water. And that's kind of the thing I think most people are like, well, no. The stadium was full and I can sell weddings, or I can sell this bottle of water for $12. And it's like, yeah, but that's not the same. People aren't in here anymore. Like, they're not right here. We've got to either go to where more people are. We've got to figure out what we can offer them. And so the more people that are crammed in that stadium, the better choice you have or the better opportunity you have to sell that $12 bottle of water. But if that sport is less populated, you don't have as much money. And maybe that makes sense. Maybe it's a dumb analogy, but I think that's, well, like, the idea of what's going on in this market is like the season has changed. And a lot of people are standing here in an empty stadium saying, well, no, I charge $12 for water, but you haven't sold a bottle of water in 3 months. And it's like, well, what can we do? Do we need to also sell Gatorade? Do we also need to sell food? Do we want to sell food? Do we want to get into the food business? Do we not want to get into the food? And like, really just, it is this opportunity, right, that we can embrace. It's like, there's something different here. And the people that love to adapt and to figure out how to thrive in different situations are the ones that I think that are going to be the ones that can sell those houses amidst a bad market. They're the ones that are going to be able to figure out ways to still, turn their product and do their thing. And I think it's especially hard in this season for the artists. And I think you're in the lane of art. I think about my friend, like a lot of my friends that are just artists at heart, and it's like they hate the business side of running this. But the truth of the matter is, this is a business. And unless your art is the top tier art, you're not going to stand out enough with just the art. What do you have to say? Anything to add on to that? Is my analogy dumb about the water? Tell me I'm stupid. Do it.
No, it was great. It was articulate. It was beautiful. It was eloquent. I loved it. Yeah, it actually reminded me of that episode of The Office where Michael is starting the Michael Scott Paper Company and he's having his pitch meeting with his grandma, and he's like, we don't have to sell paper. We could sell medicine. We can I was like, this is what concerns me. That's what I thought. Yeah, that came to mind. And so, yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. And I think too, it's a lot of people are just like, well, okay, what can I do now? I need money. And it just reminded me of things that also worked in the past of when Christmas rolled around and we sent blast emails to past couples on raw footage deals. Stuff like that's still on the table of things that you could do to try to maybe, get some sales, get some income coming through. Offer longer films, offer doc edits, offer, if couples that you filmed a couple years ago, you have a family now, and they need a family film. I actually just did that with a past couple last month. Did a TikTok for them and some photography and just a little family film. And yeah, they're just little great mementos for, your past couples and ways that you can, still kind of revitalize and pivot and bring some money into your business. And I mean, even video albums are great, add-ons that you could sell to couples right now. So there's things you can do. But I think too, it's when I look at seasons like this and you're in that hole and you just you don't really know ways out of it. And I look backwards of well, what could I have done that it could have created some kind of compound interest here and now that could have helped me get a ladder out of this thing. And I think your story is one that really rings true into that. Is just, building an inner circle early on, networking early on in your business. Cause you touched on that with, doing some outreach to, some planner friends and I think just that's one of the most crucial elements inside this industry to succeeding in those seasons of uncertainty and doubts is, when things are low or slow, I should say, lean on your inner circle, lean on those friends that you've made inside this industry, DJs, planners, photographers, because networking early on in your business can create safeguards during these times of uncertainty, like, John's attested to. And yeah, I feel like, that's something that I haven't been the best at. I have a lot of photographer friends and, some planner friends in the industry, but I will say I don't think it's enough to sustain me if I didn't have, the content creation side of things. If I didn't have that, I'd probably be 2020 me, where I'd be looking for another part-time job or another 9 to 5. And so that's really what comes to mind, is just like, we have to kind of be thinking forward. Like, when things are good, we can't just be like, oh, things are great. Like, there's nothing to really think about or plan ahead for. It's like, we really need to be thinking more so about how can we safeguard our business for when these times do come around again, because it's going to happen. I mean, the industry is constantly ebbs and flows. It's never a straight line. So yeah, that's just one thing I would say, is just like, thinking through ways that we can protect our business, our artistry, so that we don't have to succumb to, the grueling truth of like, well, this isn't working. I didn't do what I needed to do, so now I have to close up shop. I have to get another job, or things like that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, I love all that. And I do think if you're listening to this podcast, you're somebody that cares about education, and or at least you care about your business, and you're wanting to grow and you're wanting to get better. And it's the difficult thing, in a time like this, is, like you said, it's time to potentially rebrand, which is an investment of money into your business, or it's time to revisit your processes and your systems. And it's like, well, that's an investment of time that doesn't just make me money right now. I'm embracing this opportunity. Like, all these things are investments into you. You're networking, you're building your circle, you're doing all these things, and you're investing into you. And it's like, you might need to join that group, that cohort, that mastermind, that course, that you might need to do that mentor call that you need. Like I said, I was having a conversation with a friend this morning, and very smart business person, just saying, yeah, I'm having to spend way more money to make way less money than I used to have to, and investing dollars to get people to buy stuff from them, and where they didn't have to do that 2 or 3 years ago. And if you are romantic about it, when I say that, it's like you think that this is going to be this way. This is how I've done it in the past, and this will, like, I would encourage you to think outside of that and say, I might have to change some things up. I might have to invest into me. I might have to sell that camera. I might have to sell all my cameras so I have the money to do the rebrand, or to go to that workshop, or join that whatever. Because now would be the best time to really dig in and get your skills fine-tuned, and hone in on your craft, and make those relationships and do those things like you're saying, where that feels counterintuitive, where it's just like, I have to save all, I can't. It's like, are you playing offense or are you playing defense? And where you talk about embracing the opportunity, for me, as a person that does love to lean into the business and figuring out how to adapt, and figuring out how to run my, how to make it work. I am excited because what I think is going to happen are the ones of us that lean in right now and survive will be the industry leaders in 24 months. And I think there will be a mass exodus of wedding filmmakers in the market. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I want to be that, I want to do that, I would encourage you to lean in with education, lean in with networking, lean in with your brand, lean in all of those different things. Anyway, that's all I have on that note. Anything you want to add on any of what I just chatted about?
No, I think that was well said. And I think, at the end of the day too, like everyone's business, everyone's situation is going to look differently. And, not all of these methods are going to be like the surefire way to save your business or, do all the things that you need to do to make sure that you don't fall into this trap again. Cause we all go through seasons, and yeah, like you said, selling a camera if you have to. Like, I mean, I've had to do that several times, like selling all the gear that you have to just to make it work, or joining the group. And yeah, I think community too is just so important. I think that's one area that I certainly lacked when I fell into this first little season myself back in like 2019, 2020. And if I had that community, I probably would have been a lot more equipped to navigate, these storms. And so, yeah, I think just being connected with people that are going through it too is also really encouraging. And, just talking shop with other people and learning from others' perspectives is really crucial and key to just gaining that wisdom and forethought moving forward. So, yeah, that's all my thoughts on that. I think it's great.
Well, one thing I want to make sure too we hit on, and I said it a little bit, and if people want to tune out at this point, that's fine. But the importance of education and investing real time and dollars into being part of a community right now is very important. And not just, it's like, yes, watch YouTube videos, yes, listen to podcasts, but like there's something about sitting in either a Zoom call or in real life with other people that are going through this that helps motivate you, helps get you ideas, and I think now more than ever, some of the products like our mastermind group, or I know you have a couple of things, are really important. And we don't open our doors until January for our mastermind group, but there are lots of ways to get involved within the How to Film Weddings community. I know you have a couple of things that you're doing with your community. I would love to kind of hear what you're up to with your educational side of stuff. Sure. And where that's going and why you're doing this, and how you've seen any results with some of the people involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really kind of the essence of it is, when we are in those seasons, it's like, that's really why Small Town Filmmaker was created. And that's the name of my community, Small Town Filmmaker. It's just really, a place to, gain perspective. I think that's the biggest thing is, we are in different journeys and stages of our journey. And, we have a few people in there that are beginners. We have a few people in there that have been doing this for 5-6 years. And so, yeah, the essence of it is just so, we can share our experiences, share our perspectives, our challenges, our obstacles, mistakes that we've made in our business, share our films. I mean, we get together every single month and we do like a wedding film watch party, which is really fun. We get to watch each other's work and just offer some constructive feedback. And, there's no condescension. There's no judgment. It's judgment-free zones, which I think is so important for anyone who's wanting to learn, from a genuine place and just really gain insights into how to be a better filmmaker, how to be a better storyteller and servant to others. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really the essence of my community. It is still on a wait list currently, but yeah, I'm going to be opening the doors relatively soon to that again. But yeah, that's the biggest thing that I have going on right now.
Nice. Yeah. And if people don't follow you over on Instagram or YouTube, where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah. So YouTube at Wayward North, you can check out some of the videos over there. And I am on the TikTok at Wayward North Films as well, doing some short form content over there. And then, of course, IG, you can find me at Wayward North Films on IG as well.
Yeah, incredible content. Like the YouTube videos, I'm loving. They're very real. They're very authentic. They're helpful. There's, you've got a nice, calm chill about you, and I like that. And I just think it's important more than ever to dig into stuff, whether it's with Jaired, with me, with other people that are doing, do your homework and find mentors and find people that can help you kind of see things differently. And that's the thing, as a mentor myself to thousands of wedding filmmakers now over the years, is getting you out of we're all head down doing our thing. And then we look up and we realize that the forest around us is burned down. And it's like, where's all the food? Where's all the I don't have any, what's going on. And I think that having someone in your corner to kind of help raise your eyes and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. What are you seeing? Like getting your head up and looking once a week, once a month, every, like some type of a coach or mentor or cohort or group or something to keep you pushing forward, because there is massive opportunity for people that are going to hold on through this storm. And I hope today's conversation has been helpful. If you're listening, Jaired, thank you so much for taking the time for being on today. It's so fun to watch you grow in your educational business, and I know that you've only got good things coming your way. So thanks so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Again, thank you so much, Jaired, for taking the time to kind of dig into some of the things that you're thinking about when it comes to the way the wedding industry is looking right now and what to be doing during seasons of stillness in our brand. Be sure to check out Jaired's work at the links below or where he mentioned during the podcast. Before we sign out for today, we mentioned it a couple of times in the show, but if you are needing to dig in, I would highly encourage you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind and get on our wait list. It'll be here before you know it. January, we will be opening up the doors to a brand new class of Mastermind. And we don't want you to miss out on this opportunity to dig deeper for a year with other wedding filmmakers, to have that community to help you look up every single week and to grow your brand and to be thinking about things. And as this industry, the whole landscape is changing, we know that the ones of you that dig in and invest and dig in and get to know other people in the industry and hear different perspectives and see what's going on, those of you are going to be the ones that are thriving. So if you're a wedding video business that is ready to take your brand to the next level, to learn from myself, Nick, and other guest speakers, to have a community of people around you, to have in-person events, be sure to check out our mastermind group. It will sell out, and we want to make sure you're on the wait list. That's why we're telling you months in advance so you can prepare for it. All the info you need to know about it is at howtofilmweddings.com/mastermind. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you.